Hello, everybody. I'm Mike Schroeder. This is Shred's Takes. I'm here with Zay McLean, senior on the Columbia men's basketball team. He and I played pickup a couple summers ago when I was training for my senior year. So now he's in his senior year. So it's kind of funny how things happen that way. But he's been off to a great start this year, shooting 64% from the floor and averaging about over 9 points a game. And he's their starting shooting guard, small forward type on their team. So Zay, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, and I appreciate you taking some time.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's jump right into it. I always ask this of any of the guests I've had, and obviously you're a guy who's very passionate about basketball. Otherwise, you wouldn't be playing at Columbia. Talk a little bit about like where that started, maybe who got you inspired into it, and kind of development of that passion and love for the game.
Yeah, man. So, um, my dad is a huge basketball guy. I mean, my entire family played basketball growing up, so I've just always been around the game. But I think it was my dad who really, introduced me to basketball and really encouraged me to, want to play. When I was 10 years old, I played, my first, organized league. It was like a small little youth league around the area. When I used to live in Germany, because I'm a product of a military family. So, and since then, man, it was just fun. It was fun, and I also wanted to continue to get better. And from then on, I set goals for myself that I saw very quickly. Weren't as easy to attain as like you would think as a kid that's just dreaming about basketball. So that just made me want to continue to get better, continue to play the game, continue to search for like those accomplishments and stuff. And I just ended up loving it. So ever since I was 10 years old, man, I think basketball has just really been that true first love for me, for sure.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit because you played on the Adidas circuit. So I played a little bit on the Adidas circuit in EYBL. So I know that's that circuit is no joke. Playing for Team Wall, in the good old, as they call it, the hoop state in North Carolina. So just talk a little bit about that whole experience, kind of playing in that, and your whole experience, and how that helped you shape your game to where you ended up being at Columbia. Like, how did that whole
Yeah.
experience help you out?
Right. Yeah. So um, my situation was kind of interesting. I feel like me playing on the circuit was really the beginning of me playing AAU. So like I was thrown into the fire very, very early. I played 1 year prior to that with a local team around my area, LBA Thunder. But after that, once I got on the circuit, like it was real. It was on. Like everybody, at that age, everybody's trying to get offers. Everybody's trying to, be ranked. Everybody's trying to do all these different things. And so, as somebody who had never really been a part of that environment, has always been like a big fish in a small pond. That grew me up quickly in basketball and like showed me a different level of what it was, and also changed my approach a little bit. Like I think once I started playing on the circuit, like I think that was like the end of like basketball is just fun for me. Like it was like now basketball, albeit it's always gonna be fun, but basketball is a job now. And so when I was able to switch that, turn that on, and flip that switch for myself, I saw my game get better. I saw myself begin to perform better. And it just helped me, overall, not even just in basketball, but in life too. It just helped me a lot, just grow up and from a maturation standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a huge thing that I've heard from is like just the ability to kind of, it helped me out too. Just, you have to go through that entire experience. But let's talk a little bit about now you're in New York City, right? You go from North Carolina now getting obviously to a, great program, great school, right? So to talk a little bit about just kind of the journey of figuring out that Columbia was the place that you wanted to play at. And, because the recruiting process, as I've talked to other people, is a daunting one for a lot of people. It's tough to say no to other schools, but what made Columbia stand out, and how has it been kind of being in the city now for you?
Nah, yeah. I mean, I enjoy my time being here. This was, the place for me. Looking at it, the biggest thing for me was that I got the most real, most authentic, most everyday feel here than I got it in the other school. And I had a lot of talks with the guys who told me, yes, bro, like this is a great experience, great opportunity, great place to be, but this is what it comes with, and this is what you should expect, and this is how you should, approach it, coming into it if you decide to come here. I really appreciated that coming from guys who, I'd be competing with minutes for, and then also guys who I probably never played with, to be able to just give me that game and, extend that hand of, help and, for me. Obviously New York City's a plus, but just, the overall feel and, the transparency that came with it, I couldn't turn it down.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you're in a leadership. For those, we're gonna get into it, but Truey Talks, which I listened to recently, listened to a couple of your episodes, and you kind of talked about like stepping into a new role, right? And as being a senior, look, I was there last year. You definitely have to step into a leadership role, and talk a little bit about that. I mean, like, was that a transition at all for you? Did it kind of come like naturally this year? I mean, I know you're still working on it because you're only 5 games in, but just kind of talk about like being a senior, the responsibilities that come with that, and how you've taken that experience.
Nah, yeah. So I mean, I like to think that everywhere I've been up to this point, I've always been a leader or the leader of the team. In a lot of cases, I have been the leader of the team. And so coming into college, it was very different, right? Because the first year was the COVID year, so we didn't play. And then that next year coming, not only was it my first year, but it was the freshman that came in that year's first year as well. So in that aspect, I kind of was thrown into a position to where, like, yeah, you have some guys that, are probably going to be following you. Some guys that you kind of help along the way, but there's also that part of it that you still have to learn as well. So I think I've had a conflicting kind of, relationship with leadership a little bit, because my leadership style that I've always, have, and I kind of still have to this day, doesn't work with everybody. And I think that, with the situation that I have been presented with the COVID thing, and, with being like, one of the more experienced guys, but then when you look at it from the standard or in relation to everybody else in the country, not that much experience at all. So, you try to find your way. You try to see, okay, what's the best leadership style? What's the best way to do this? Am I doing everything I'm supposed to be doing before I can even try to, lead someone else? So it was a lot of that. There was a lot of conversations with my teammates, a lot of conversations with the coaching staff, a lot of conversations with myself, honestly, to see, what can I do to help? And I think that, this past summer, or, maybe leading up a little bit towards the end of the year last year, I found, my way as a leader. I think, I built up the equity, to a certain point to where my, teammates and the coaching staff can, respect me, and then, trust that, I'm doing, what needs to be done and doing it the right way. And then also, building closer relationship with guys was a big thing too. It's kind of hard to, critique and, lead someone that you don't really, ask, how's your day? How you doing? So that was something I definitely, tried to be a little bit more cognizant of. And, I think it's been really good, especially, with the friendship that we had this past summer. I think that helped me a lot, kind of thrust into a more, secure leadership role. I feel like I've always kind of been in the leadership role because, that's what the coaches preach, and that's what, we kind of go by. Everybody's a leader. But I think for a more secure, concrete leadership role that, people can, respect, I think that that's something I've built over the last, few months.
Yeah, and you guys have won 3 straight games, right? Since those 2 losses. And to be fair, you guys play Providence, who's going to be one of the top teams in the Big East, and Albany's obviously no slouch of a program. But you guys just came off a huge win against Temple. Do you think you're like the leadership of trying to like make sure you guys stay committed going forward is also that important? Because that's a huge win you guys just had at Temple. They're a very good program, good team. Congrats on the win, by the way. That's awesome. And like, we got to make sure we're staying committed each game to really build on this and be successful, because look, 3-2 start, that's a successful way to start the season, but obviously it's a long season going through. So is that something in your mind too, thinking about like, I got to make sure I'm staying individually committed and making sure that I'm trying to get the best out of teammates that around me from a leadership standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. That was something I was talking to Josh about after the game, like probably 5 minutes after the game. I was just like, like, this feels really good right now, but tomorrow morning this never happened. And so, in other words, just saying like, like, this is cool, but we still have more work to do. And that's something that I pride myself on. never being satisfied. That's being satisfied and always, wanting to do more. You know, get to. That's the level we want to get to. That's the level we feel like we, deserve to get to. And that's something we got to continue to build on. That if you look across the league, everybody's being, really competitive right now. We just want to show that we're, along the pack as well. We want to show that, we're able to be, just as competitive, just as successful. And it comes with, growth. Growth comes in stages. Like I said, we continue to mature. We're on a 3-game win streak right now. So we want to continue to stretch that. We have a big one on Tuesday. That'll be a good one to get coming back home and stuff like that. So yeah, just trying to, make sure everybody's level headed. Obviously we're proud and, of the effort and, we continue to encourage the guys. Like our bench played really, really well. We want to continue to have them play really, really well. Our starters played really, really well. And, we just didn't look rattled and we really controlled the game, I feel like. And so we want to continue to do that, knowing that that's the standard and not letting that drop.
I love that answer. I mean, that's something that, I'm going to be working for the multimedia game on Tuesday. So I'm excited. I've went to your guys' game against Bard. And, I kind of saw that collectiveness that you kind of talked about definitely from there. But kind of just talking about a little bit outside of basketball, for those who know Zay, he has his own podcast as well, which it's a good listen. So if you don't listen to it, you should listen to it. Good short snippets of kind of insight into not just your teammates, but just kind of like your mindset going to games, things you like to do off the court. Where did that podcast come in from?
So I would say, a myriad of things, to be honest. I would say, I started it, during quarantine 2020 when everybody was stuck in the house. And, it started as just something to pass time. And I want to thank, that period of time because it allowed a lot of people to be a little bit more accessible. And so, it started out with me interviewing people, people I've played against, coaches that I've, played against, people in the media around my area. And then, that kind of was, the trajectory and the theme and the identity of it as, time went on. And then once I got to college, it became a little bit more of a journal for me. And allowed me to kind of, take people through, what my experience has been, since I've been here. Because, for a lot of people back home, like, living in New York City and, going to college in New York City isn't really something that, they would know about. And it's something I definitely wanted to share. And it was a little bit, I wouldn't say a vent because I don't really vent too much, but it was a way for me to allow myself to kind of express the way I was thinking. And if I ever felt, heavy or full with any type of emotion, that was my time to kind of, like pour the bottle out. So, yeah, that's kind of how it's been. Obviously, I've interviewed my teammates, after games, talking about different things. And then also, the summertime, I took a little bit of time to, add some different themes to episodes and talk about different things that, that I felt like were relevant at the time and can, help people, in their everyday life, regardless if it's, through sport or not. So, yeah, it's taken on a lot of different identities over the years, but I think that speaks more to just, the nature of my life and then, also the nature of, society, to be honest. I feel like, I try to give, a solid episode a timely episode, that speaks on the topic that, I feel like is, much needed at the time for people to hear. So, yeah, that's what it's been for me.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like my podcast journey also was during quarantine. So that's kind of funny how that started. Yeah, and I agree with you. Like, I mean, mine's more like I started out kind of debating sports topics, right? And then now it's shifted into like these kind of things where so it's interesting how that kind of evolution happens, right? But talk a little bit also just about like you're working as a merchandising intern and you're an urban studies major. That, by the way, that's awesome. That's so cool. But can I just talk about like where those interests popped up from and, what made you decide to be, an urban studies major and at a great school like Columbia?
Yeah, man. So starting with the urban studies stuff, originally I came to Columbia thinking I was going to do kinesiology, which is like sports medicine. But the track to that would be like biology. And, I knew very quickly I didn't want to do that. And then I actually wanted to get into journalism a little bit, but they didn't have an undergrad, program. So it left me with, a lot of, options to kind of shop around at. And, with everything that was going on in 2020, with social injustice and stuff like that, I looked closely at some things that could really be highlighted on my end. And for me, I was attracted to housing for marginalized communities, for Black people, and other minority communities in America. And that was something I definitely wanted to kind of look into and see if I could find my way into cultivating some type of change and relief to that issue that's been a problem for years. So yeah, urban studies became it, and I'm thankful that I was able to stick with it, because it's definitely been something that I definitely plan on using later on in life, and expanding upon as I go through my academic career, as well as like my professional career. So yeah, urban studies has been, not even really just a major for me, but it's another one of my passions that, I became more passionate about, specifically, affordable housing and stuff like that. But just learning about cities, learning about, like the nature of cities, and, how they can be fixed and, more, equitable. That's something I love, learning about. So yeah. And then, with the merchandising part, I've always been interested in fashion. Fashion has always been something that I've wanted to get into. Even since before, I started, looking at, college and stuff like that. So once I got to New York, I wanted to learn more about the business instead of fashion as a consumer. And then so, I reached out to a couple of people. My coach actually, Coach Agel, got me in contact with, one of his close friends, Steven Snyder, who, worked in fashion a lot throughout the city, who's based out of Long Island. And he helped me a lot. Oh, excuse me, not Long Island. I think it's upstate, Scarsdale, I believe. I apologize. But yeah, so he connected me with him, and ever since then, like, he was able to put me in some really good company with some really great people, and it kind of went on from there, and that was a great experience in itself. So I've been trying to do a lot of things outside of basketball, just to kind of you know just have an identity outside of basketball, to be honest. But then also doing things that I'm passionate about, and I could see myself taking to the next level.
Yeah, I think that's important. There's like a phrase that my parents always said to me is like, don't be a one trick pony. Like, don't only just like rely on, because basketball, obviously, look, yeah, it's important because you want to be good at it, you want to obviously play as long as you can. But having those other interests also, I feel like, makes basketball more interesting and more exciting, because you're more, you more want to do it because you're like, okay, I have other things that I'm interested about. So I'm like, I want to do this well. But talk a little bit about just kind of, what the future goals look like. I know it's early because you're still in the season, right? So, are you trying to play basketball as long as you can? Or are you saying like, okay, look, I'm trying to, dominate the senior year, play as well as I can, lead as best as I can, and then, try to embark on my other career journeys. I figure based on talking to you that you want to keep playing basketball as long as possible, but maybe I'm overstating that a little bit.
Nah, you're completely right. I definitely want to play basketball as long as I possibly can, at the highest level I possibly can. I know we all shoot for the NBA, and that's something that has always been my dream ever since I was younger. So that's where I'm at with it. Like, I definitely want to play and participate in being at the pinnacle of basketball. Like, that would be great. And then whatever journey comes with that, I'm going to participate. And then, going back to what you were saying before about, making basketball a little bit more interesting when you have, other things outside. I think that, with the things that I want to do, playing basketball would allow me to, build up a nice enough profile, a nice enough network, to be able to, connect with the right people in order to, pursue these different careers in different fields. As being a college athlete, you play solid in a certain sport, you get connected with certain alums that you may not have known had you not, been a part of the team or, represented the university in the way you did. So that's something I'm really grateful for, here at Columbia. A lot of people who love watching basketball are willing to help you because, you represent, the university so well, or, you represent the university in a certain way. So just extending that to the rest of the world, it's the same way pretty much everywhere else. you do something good long enough, or you do something at a certain level long enough, you'll meet, more and more people who do, more and more things, and then, that starts to kind of expand, the opportunities and the possibilities you have in life as well. So, I think at this point now, other than, wanting to be the best basketball player I possibly can be, I think, that's another motivation for me as well, with basketball, just to be able to get to a level to where I've made so many different connections that I have no problem, transitioning into, another career. So yeah, but in terms of basketball, man, and goals, like I said, man, shooting for the NBA. Like that's always what it's going to be, until, I can't do that anymore. And God willing, I hope I am able to do that, until I'm 50. But yeah, basketball, obviously for the season, we want to get as far as we can, we want to get to the Ivy tourney. We want to be Ivy champions. We're hosting it this year, so it'd be nice to participate, and really put on, for, the city. But, mostly, man, just getting better every day. Just getting better every day, staying, to the work. And, whenever you say that, man, and whenever that's your, your mindset and your goals, the results, you can't even really pinpoint what the results are, because they always end up being more than what you expect. So that's where I'm at with it, man. I'm just trying to, take it day by day.
As you should, right? I mean, it's a long season. As I was just there a couple months, short while ago, right? It's a long season, and I just want to say, obviously, for you guys, right? It's been fun watching you guys so far. I'm excited to continue to watch. It's nice being able to, when you're a grad student, be able to just kind of go from class and go watch, you guys or the women's team play and compete at a high level. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I just want to say thank you so much for coming on to the podcast tonight, because I know you guys are busy as heck during the basketball season. So I'm glad you made a little time to come on and discuss a little bit about your basketball journey, your career passions, and all that kind of stuff, because I think it's very interesting to kind of hear, the stuff outside of just the sport. So appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. And, like you said before, like, we've had a close relationship and we've been talking a lot. So it's been really nice for you to kind of extend this invitation. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. For Mike Schroeder for Shred Stakes, I'm with Zay McLean. And make sure you support Columbia men's basketball.